the first thing you heard with Queen was Freddie's voice, and it's the same as it was then. It's a very strong voice, a very distinctive voice, and you recognize that this guy knows what he's doing.
I don't think I'd ever met anybody like Freddie, who was larger than life, so funny, so gifted, so talented in what he wanted to do.
Yeah, he looked like a rock star in those days, absolutely. And he acted like a rock star. He was a rock star, always.
It was his intention to get 75,000 people to sing a song together. When that happens, it's magical.
When you think about the greatest performers in rock history, one name consistently rises above the rest, not just among fans, but among the very legends who shared stages, studios, and stories with him.
Freddie always had a good voice. That's always been the anchor of that group, I think. And Brian's a good guitar player as well. You know, they've had musical skill. I think you can tell, you know, when a band's got musical skill. But I think, as I say, the first thing you heard with Queen was Freddie's voice.
Even Paul McCartney, a man who needs no introduction to musical excellence, a songwriter whose melodies have become part of the fabric of human culture itself, immediately recognized something special in Freddie's voice. But this wasn't just professional courtesy or a polite recognition between peers. This was one master craftsman acknowledging another. But more than that, it was recognition of something that went beyond mere technical skill or commercial appeal. McCartney's assessment cut straight to the heart of what separated Freddie from countless other vocalists of his era. That indefinable quality that made you stop whatever you were doing the moment you heard it, that made time seem to suspend itself while his voice filled the space around you.
And it's the same as it was then. It's a very strong voice, a very distinctive voice, and you recognize that this guy knows what he's doing.
That phrase, "this guy knows what he's doing," coming from one of the most successful songwriters in history, carries enormous weight that extends far beyond its simple words. It speaks to something beyond mere technical ability or years of training. It's the recognition of an artist who possessed complete command over his craft, someone who understood not just how to sing, but how to communicate through song in ways that reached directly into the listener's soul and stirred something profound within them. This wasn't about perfect pitch or flawless technique, though Freddie possessed both in abundance. This was about the ability to take the raw material of human emotion and transform it into something that could move mountains, literally and figuratively. When McCartney says Freddie knows what he's doing, he's acknowledging a level of artistic consciousness that few performers ever achieve. The ability to be simultaneously in complete control of your craft while appearing utterly spontaneous and natural. In the world of popular music, where image often trumps substance and marketing campaigns can create temporary stars from thin air, genuine artistic authority is rare and immediately recognizable to those who possess it themselves. McCartney's recognition of this quality in Freddie speaks to a deeper truth about artistic excellence, that it cannot be manufactured, cannot be taught, and cannot be faked for very long. Either you have that connection to something deeper within yourself that allows you to channel authentic emotion through your art, or you don't. But Freddie's impact extended far beyond his voice, remarkable though it was. Those who worked closest with him reveal a different side of his genius, his ability to inspire and elevate everyone around him while maintaining an almost democratic approach to creativity that was revolutionary in an industry notorious for hierarchical power struggles and creative gatekeeping. In the music business, where creative control often becomes a source of conflict and where strong personalities frequently clash over artistic direction, the collaborative environment that Freddie fostered within Queen was nothing short of remarkable. Here was someone with the talent and charisma to completely dominate any creative space he entered, yet he chose instead to create an atmosphere where everyone's contributions were valued and encouraged.
He was great. No, he was wonderful to work with. I have to say, unequivocally. You know, people think he might be difficult, you know, be a diva or whatever, but he wasn't. He was very democratic, very giving, very supportive of everyone else's ideas.
Brian May's testimony is particularly powerful because it comes from someone who spent decades creating music alongside Freddie, someone who witnessed both his public triumphs and private struggles, who saw him in moments of creative breakthrough and artistic frustration. In an industry notorious for ego clashes and creative tensions, where bands frequently implode under the pressure of competing visions and personality conflicts, May's description paints a picture of an artist secure enough in his own abilities to lift others up rather than tear them down. This collaborative spirit, combined with his natural leadership qualities and genuine respect for his bandmates' talents, created an environment where musical magic could flourish without the destructive drama that plagued so many other groups of their era. It speaks to a level of emotional maturity and artistic confidence that allowed Freddie to be generous with others because he wasn't threatened by their success or creativity. He understood that their excellence only enhanced his own. The story of how Freddie first encountered his future bandmates reveals the confidence and vision that would later captivate millions around the world, but also something deeper about his character, an ability to see potential potential where others might see only problems, and the courage to act on that vision even when it meant taking enormous personal risks. Picture this scene. A young man walks into a room where an established band is performing, watches them with the keen eye of someone who understands music on a fundamental level, and then has the audacity to approach them afterward with constructive criticism and an even bolder proposition. In most circumstances, this would be dismissed as presumption or arrogance, but there was something about Freddie's approach, his genuine enthusiasm combined with his obvious knowledge and passion, that made his critique not only palatable, but welcome.
Yeah, he came to see us play. We had a little group called Smile, and Freddie came along to watch, and he was really, really enthusiastic and full of energy, like he was always, and he came back and said, yeah, this is great, but you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, and you're doing this wrong. What you need is me.
The audacity of that moment is breathtaking when you really consider it. Here was someone who had the confidence to walk up to an established group and essentially declare himself their missing piece, their solution to problems they might not have even realized they had. But this wasn't arrogance in the conventional sense. It wasn't the blind self-aggrandizement of someone who overestimated their own abilities. This was the kind of bold self-awareness that only comes from someone who truly understood their own capabilities and had a vision for what could be achieved when those capabilities were properly channeled and combined with the talents of others. What's remarkable is that his assessment was absolutely correct. The chemistry that developed between Freddie and the members of what would become Queen proved his initial instinct right. They did need him, just as he needed them, and together they created something that none of them could have achieved alone. This kind of artistic intuition, the ability to recognize potential collaborations and creative possibilities, is itself a form of genius that goes beyond individual talent into the realm of artistic leadership and vision.
Yeah, he looked like a rock star in those days, absolutely, and he acted like a rock star. He was a rock star, always. I think he's born a rock star.
This observation from Brian May touches on something profound about Freddie's essence that goes beyond learned behavior or calculated persona building. He didn't become a rock star through careful study of what rock stars should look like or act like. He didn't model himself after existing templates or try to fit into established patterns of stardom. He simply was one from the very beginning, as if the universe had conspired to create someone who embodied the very concept of rock stardom in its purest form. It was as natural to him as breathing, an authentic expression of his inner nature, rather than a carefully constructed persona designed to appeal to audiences or fit industry expectations. This authenticity is perhaps what made him so magnetic. People could sense that what they were seeing was real, that the confidence and charisma weren't manufactured, but were genuine expressions of who he was at his core. In an industry built on illusion and transformation, where artists often struggle to find their authentic voice amid the pressure to conform to commercial expectations, Freddie's complete comfort with his own identity was revolutionary. He never seemed to be trying to be anything other than exactly what he was, and what he was happened to be exactly what a rock star should be: charismatic, talented, fearless, and completely committed to his artistic vision. The impact of this authenticity extended far beyond Queen's inner circle, reaching into the hearts and minds of musicians from completely different genres and generations, who found themselves drawn to something indefinable about Freddie's presence and artistry. His influence transcended the boundaries of rock music, touching artists across the spectrum of popular culture and inspiring them to push their own creative boundaries. What's particularly striking is how artists from different musical traditions and cultural backgrounds all seem to recognize something universal in Freddie's approach to performance and creativity. Whether you were into punk rock or pop, heavy metal or folk music, there was something about his commitment to authenticity and excellence that spoke to the fundamental principles of artistic integrity that transcend genre or style.
Hi, I'm W. Axl Rose, and the first album I ever bought was Queen's A Night at the Opera. When I was a kid, I was told that rock and roll wasn't music, it wasn't art. Queen was my proof, my evidence that these people were wrong, and they meant everything to me.
For Axl Rose to credit Queen, and by extension, Freddie, as his proof that rock music was legitimate art speaks volumes about the cultural impact of their work. This wasn't just entertainment or rebellion, it was artistic validation that gave a young musician permission to pursue his own creative dreams with serious intent. The reverence extends to more recent generations of rock legends, who found in Freddie not just inspiration, but a standard of excellence that seemed almost impossibly high.
It took me a really long time to accept that I am not going to sing like Freddie Mercury, ever. It's just not gonna happen. And it took me a really long time before I realized, oh, that's okay.
Dave Grohl's honest admission reveals the profound impact Freddie had on musicians who came after him. The fact that one of rock's most accomplished performers had to consciously accept that he would never reach Freddie's level demonstrates the unique space Freddie occupied in the musical hierarchy. It wasn't competition, it was recognition of something transcendent. But perhaps the most compelling testament to Freddie's genius lies in his ability to create moments of pure magic that united thousands of people in shared experience. These weren't just concerts, they were communal experiences experiences that bordered on the spiritual.
I mean, I used to have that picture of Freddie Mercury standing in front of Wembley Stadium as the wallpaper on my cell phone. I would look at it every day because I thought, how inspiring. It was his intention to get 75,000 people to sing a song together.
That image, Freddie commanding Wembley Stadium, conducting a choir of 75,000 voices, represents something that goes beyond mere performance. It's about the power to unite disparate individuals into a single, cohesive, emotional experience. The fact that Dave Grohl kept that image as daily inspiration speaks to its enduring power as a symbol of what live performance could achieve at its absolute peak.
When that happens, it's magical. It's crazy. It gives you a whole new belief in life and the human race.
This is the essence of what made Freddie untouchable, his ability to create moments that transcended entertainment and became something approaching the sacred. These experiences didn't just entertain, they transformed people's fundamental relationship with music, with community, and with their own capacity for joy and connection. Yet behind this larger-than-life public persona was a man whose private relationships revealed depths of loyalty, generosity, and humanity that surprised even his closest friends.
I don't think I'd ever met anybody like Freddie, who was larger than life, so funny, so gifted, so talented in what he wanted to do. I mean, his videos, he's used ballet dancing, and he had such an incredible mind, and was one of the funniest people I'd ever met, and was so wonderful to spend time with. Hanging out with him was a pleasure. There was no attitude, it was just a laugh.
Elton John's description reveals something crucial about Freddie's character. Despite his enormous talent and success, he remained fundamentally approachable and generous with his friendship. This combination of extraordinary ability with genuine humility created a magnetic personality that drew people in rather than intimidating them. The famous Live Aid incident that Elton recounts illustrates both Freddie's competitive spirit and his disarming honesty.
When we did Live Aid, I had this big area built backstage which everybody could come and have a drink with, all the artists on the show. And I went on before Queen, and Queen came, and I wore this ridiculous kind of hat, and Freddie came back, and they completely trounced it. I went, well, I said, no one need go on now, Freddie, you just completely and utterly swept the board, and you were absolutely brilliant. He said, yes, darling, we were. And what were you wearing? You looked like the Queen Mother. And I did.
This exchange captures so much about Freddie's personality, the confidence to acknowledge his own brilliance, yes, darling, we were, combined with the playful irreverence that kept relationships light and fun, even in moments of professional triumph. It was this balance between supreme self-assurance and genuine warmth that made him so compelling to both audiences and fellow artists. But perhaps the most revealing stories about Freddie's character emerge from the final chapter of his life, when facing terminal illness stripped away any pretense and revealed the core of who he truly was.
I have a house in London which wasn't too far from the house where he spent the last few weeks of his life or years of his life. And I didn't go and see him often because I found it really, really painful, because AIDS was terrifying. And he was physically terrifying to look at.
Elton's honesty about the difficulty of those final visits makes his subsequent observations even more powerful. Despite the physical ravages of his illness, Freddie's essential nature remained unchanged.
But Freddie loved collecting Japanese art and collecting at auction. So while he was dying, he was still buying things at auction. He would be surrounded on the bed, and there'd be medicine all around him, medicine cabinets, pills, but auction catalogs. And it was astonishing. I thought, this is amazing. This man has such a love of life. He's not thinking about dying whatsoever. He's still thinking about living. And he showed no fear to me about dying, and no fear or sadness.
This image, Freddie surrounded by both medicine and auction catalogs, still engaging with life and beauty even as death approached, reveals something extraordinary about his character. It wasn't denial, it was a fundamental orientation toward life, creativity, and beauty that remained unshakable even in the face of mortality. The story of the Henry Scott Duke watercolor that Elton shares demonstrates how this life-affirming spirit extended to his relationships with others, even in his final days.
Was this watercolor of Henry Scott Duke, and in the note that went with it, it said, "Dear Sharon, I saw this at auction and thought you'd love it. I love you, Melina." And well, you can imagine how much I cried. It was really moving. And he was dying, and he still thought of his friend, and he bought me this.
The fact that a dying man was still thinking of his friends, still finding ways to express love through thoughtful gifts, speaks to a generosity of spirit that transcended physical circumstances. This wasn't just kindness, it was a fundamental understanding of what truly mattered in life, maintained even when life itself was slipping away.
That's the kind of person he was. He was so full of love and life. I don't think I've ever met anyone quite like that.
Coming from Elton John, who has moved in circles of extraordinary people throughout his career, this assessment carries particular weight. It suggests that Freddie possessed qualities that went beyond talent or charisma into something approaching the transcendent. But Freddie's impact wasn't limited to his immediate circle of friends and collaborators. His influence rippled outward, touching artists from completely different backgrounds and musical traditions, creating a legacy that continues to inspire new generations.
But for me, he represents a sort of era where people were less afraid, I guess, of living life to the full, if you like. You know, this was the time in the 70s, if you like, where rock extravagances went berserk.
Annie Lennox's perspective places Freddie in a broader cultural context as a symbol of artistic fearlessness and authentic self-expression that seems increasingly rare in our current age. He represented a time when artists felt free to push boundaries, to be excessive, to fully inhabit their creative visions without apology.
There was a sort of glorious kind of rebelliousness about it and a kind of freedom attached to it that represents that whole spirit of rock and roll, if you like. And a fantastic theatricality and campness that everybody enjoys.
This glorious rebelliousness that Annie describes wasn't rebellion for its own sake, but rather the courage to be completely authentic, to express the fullness of one's artistic vision regardless of conventional expectations. Freddie embodied this spirit more completely than perhaps any other performer of his era. Even brief encounters with Freddie left lasting impressions on fellow musicians, as Bono's story from Live Aid demonstrates.
So when Freddie Mercury comes up and he goes, hello, we've all agreed that we like you. And I went, oh. And he had me up against a wall, and Freddie was being really playful with me. And I walked up and I went, he's really very camp, isn't he?
This playful encounter reveals another dimension of Freddie's magnetism, his ability to disarm and charm even in brief interactions. His approach was simultaneously bold and warm, creating instant intimacy that left people both surprised and delighted.
It was a little learning curve there, because I thought that gay men were kind of people. Freddie wasn't. If Freddie wanted you, he was going to have you.
Bono's honest reflection reveals how Freddie challenged preconceptions and stereotypes simply by being himself. His powerful physical presence and confident sexuality defied easy categorization, forcing people to confront and revise their assumptions. The impact of Freddie's artistry continues to resonate with new generations of performers, as evidenced by contemporary artists who credit him with shaping their own creative journeys.
And you inspired me especially. Without you, I wouldn't be making music or doing what I do, because your lyrics inspired me as a 15-year-old girl. I heard Killer Queen and I wanted to be a killer queen.
Katy Perry's tribute reveals how Freddie's influence transcended genre, gender, and generation. A teenage girl hearing Killer Queen and feeling inspired to pursue music herself speaks to the universal appeal of Freddie's artistry and the empowering nature of his creative vision.
So thank you so much for all of your amazing music, for Queen, the band, for your whole persona, for your character, your personality, which was larger than life.
This encapsulates what made Freddie truly untouchable. It wasn't just one aspect of his artistry, but the complete integration of musical talent, visual presentation, personality, and authentic self-expression that created something greater than the sum of its parts. What emerges from all these testimonials is a portrait of an artist who achieved something that few in any field ever manage: complete authenticity combined with extraordinary ability. Freddie Mercury wasn't trying to be a rock star. He simply was one in every fiber of his being. He wasn't performing confidence. He genuinely possessed it. He wasn't manufacturing charisma. It flowed from him naturally because it was an authentic expression of who he truly was. This authenticity, combined with his remarkable vocal abilities, his collaborative spirit, his generous heart, and his fearless approach to creative expression, created a perfect storm of artistic excellence that continues to inspire and influence musicians decades after his death. He set a standard not just for technical ability, but for the complete integration of artistry and humanity that made him genuinely untouchable in the pantheon of rock legends. The stories shared by his peers reveal that Freddie's greatest achievement wasn't just the music he created, but the example he set of what it meant to live fully, create fearlessly, and connect authentically with both individuals and masses. In a world that often rewards artifice and calculation, Freddie Mercury remains a shining example of the power of being completely, unapologetically yourself, and doing so with such excellence that it becomes truly untouchable.